Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes! The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it. Oh my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break. Winning it 3.
Hello, welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. Well, what a outstanding victory the Union had on the road. The first win at Red Bull Arena since 2015. 3 goals coming courtesy of Brendan Aronson, who I think we'll probably talk about this a little bit with the special guest I have on today. Next goal was Kacper Schbelko, and then Matt Real getting his first goal. And you'd love to see, 2 homegrown scoring in this game. I think it was the first time ever that 2 homegrowns have scored in the same game for the Union. But, enough of me babbling on and everything. Joining me today is a guy who was on the podcast, I believe, back in December, January. And I'm super excited to have him back on and everything. He's always a good conversation to have, whether that's in the Union Zoom happy hours, which, unfortunately I don't attend anymore, which I'm not even sure the 40 people that we constantly had join, but people still join and everything. So shout out to Jared and the Union Zoom people who are showing up every single week. But joining me on the podcast today is, again, Mr. Justin Friedburg. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing pretty good, Todd. Thanks for having me back on.
No problem. I'm super excited, like I said, to have you back on. And especially, we will talk about what happened to you after this New York Red Bulls versus Philadelphia Union game. If you guys aren't following Justin, make sure you follow him. Union 26, I believe it is, but I'll let you plug that at the end, like I always do with everybody, Justin. But man, just what a game we had and everything, and I'm sure both you and I have a lot to discuss, a lot of thoughts on this game and everything. But before we talk about this game and everything, let's just start the episode like I always do, which is going straight into the news. So, starting off, we will talk about that game right away because Sergio Santos had to get pulled in the game pretty early on because Jim Curtin said in his press conference that he has a muscle injury. He said he doesn't want to speculate too much on it other than the fact that it's a muscle injury and everything. And I'm pretty sure it looked like a hamstring injury, and we know soccer players, anytime they get any muscle injuries, they could be out for months out of time and everything, but Jim doesn't want to speculate, and I respect him for that and everything. But when you see a player pull up and everything, yeah, you know that that's never a good sign and everything. So what were your thoughts, Justin, when Sergio Santos pulled up and everything? Because we saw last year, he missed a lot of time due to injuries, and, he hasn't been going past like the 65-minute mark at all. I think he went maybe once 70th minute this season and everything, but he's not a guy going full 90 minutes. And like I said, last season he was injured a lot of times, and here he gets injured in the first half in this game against the Red Bulls.
Yeah, listen, it is a concern because someone who has a lot of muscle injuries for a speedster such as Sergio, you can't speculate, like Jim said. That's one thing you never know. But on the other hand, Todd, you made a good point. Muscle injuries can be months at a time. Even soft tissue. I mean, that's the thing. That's why, guys get hamstring strains and can be out 2 months because it takes a while. Sergio, the play in question, he made a great play to get around Amro Tarek, and he was in. Nice pass to Kacper, who took a touch and then, got amazingly dispossessed by Kyle Duncan, who is one of the few bright spots on a very poor Red Bull team. And then you see Sergio down, and it wasn't so bad that he couldn't at least walk off. And I did hear reports, I didn't exactly see it during the game, but that he jumped over the railing. So if that was the case, it may have just been precaution. Jim seemed to have been doing that with Jamiro later in the game. I think he's giving certain guys a rest and certain guys, it just, at this point, you have all these congested games. The last game in the first phase 1 and 6 games is on Saturday. Why they haven't released the schedule for the next 6 games, I have no idea. I'm sure the league is on that. I would hope so. But I think at the very least they have to get to Saturday, and they know that they're going to have a congested schedule going forward. So it's not worth risking Sergio anything further.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the same reason why we didn't see Kai Wagner, because I remember when he got hurt against DC United, Jim was like, yeah, he could probably have played the 90 minutes, but, it's precautionary and everything. We don't want to risk injury any farther. And then we heard that he wasn't going to play the next game. He's like, yeah, I'm saving him for the Red Bulls and everything. I'm not going to play him against Columbus. And so everybody thought that, okay, yeah, we'll see him in the lineup against Red Bulls, and he was out again and everything. So, yeah, who knows how injured Kai Wagner really is and everything. But again, like Jim said about Sergio, you don't want to speculate. But sticking with Philadelphia Union news, Jacob Glesnes and Jim Curtin both won MLS Team of the Week honors. And Brendan is also up for Goal of the Week, so be sure to vote for that Goal of the Week that Brendan scored, because that was, in my opinion, a world-class goal, and I'm sure you and I, Justin, will talk about that goal and just Brendan's performance of the night. But I thought, I don't want to talk too much about the game right now, but Jim, I think he made all the right substitution choices. Like you said, brought Jameer out of the game and everything to give him a little bit of a rest. Matt Real, Anthony Fontana, Elsinho, just all the subs that Jim made. They played really, really well. And Jacob Glesnes, he had a good game too. I know he had a couple bad passes and everything, but again, I don't want to talk too much about this game, but it's nice to see, both of these guys getting recognition from the league, because we know, being Philadelphia Union fans, nationally, we don't really get that much coverage. We don't get too much hype around us. So to see Casper win Goal of the Week last week, I think Brendan was in Team of the Week. Now to see Jacob Glesnes in Team of the Week with Jim Curtin, you'd love to see it.
Oh, absolutely. And on a side note, Brendan actually did make the bench for the Team of the Week. But no, I agree. I think Glesnes had a good game overall. It makes me feel better about the likelihood of McKenzie being sold within the next year, because Glesnes is also 25 years old. Now, him and Elliott are both very, I say freakishly tall center backs, but they both have enough speed and enough awareness of the game to make up for those plays. Obviously, I think they're going to most likely bring guys up from the academy or Steele. I believe there is a center back on U2. I'm blanking on his name, that I know they're highly rated on, and that they may or may not, I imagine, in the next few years, be potentially giving him a first-team contract. But if not, finding depth center backs in this league is pretty easy. You see a lot of guys that have gone from team to team and made themselves journeymen, but they've been serviceable backups. And I think you need really a solid 3 center backs to really be a good team in this league. And I think the Union finally have that. And it's showing why they're, the second team in the league behind a Columbus team that they still made a pretty good effort against.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you spot on. It's like, even before Jacob Glesnes, I thought, Austin Trusty was pretty serviceable too, but yet you can't get into the Colorado Rapids team and everything. So, how good is Austin, where we all thought, he would be a shoo-in for Colorado, and he's still not getting much game action like he was here in Philadelphia. So that could be another podcast discussion with people and everything, but we're not going to go there right now. So going on to point number 3 for the news is Michael Bradley. He suffered a grade 2 MCL sprain over the week against, I think it was Montreal they were playing, and their coach said he'd be out for weeks and everything. And, I don't really have too much thoughts on this. Just, when guys get older and everything, they tend to cramp up and everything, and it's, Michael Bradley's still their captain and everything, but I'm not sure how much Toronto is going to miss Michael Bradley and everything. Like I said, I don't have too much thoughts. I just thought it was notable to add and everything, because I got to imagine once that second schedule comes out for MLS for the second half of the season, I got to imagine Toronto is going to be on there, but it might not at all. And so, Michael Bradley could be a player that's missing from that game. Justin, any thoughts on this? Maybe not.
No, I think you could definitely see Toronto on the schedule, because I know them and I believe Montreal are both going to be essentially renting space at Red Bull Arena. Red Bull Arena is basically its own little bubble at this point. But no, I definitely think you have a good point. Michael Bradley, when guys, he's been a stalwart in the men's national team and basically everywhere he's been, but you're always going to have someone pushing up next. Prime example, Josie. Josie's been hurt very often the last 3 years. And up until, I say, this past year, they really haven't had anyone serviceable to back him up. And then all of a sudden, Ayo Akinola is coming up, and he's coming up fast. I mean, he made a great name for himself at the MLS's back tournament. He did get injured, but he is back. And you're seeing that Josie might be on his way out. And if reports are true that his ownership interest in Real Salt Lake is a possibility, then there's a good chance he may have to get traded there, because I have to imagine there's some kind of a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would hope there's some kind of a conflict of interest, but you never know. And same thing with Michael. Listen, he's still their captain. He's still a stalwart, but at the same time, I have to imagine that Toronto's been planning for this day for a few years. I mean, when they brought in, Bradley and out the door within a few years of each other, you knew there was going to be a very tight window, because they were in the primes of their careers. I mean, I believe Bradley was coming off of a pretty good spell at Roma, which was surprising when he made the move. Josie's made sense because after a good start in the Premier League, he kind of...
Oh, he fell off massively, I think, with Sunderland.
Yeah, Sunderland, that move made no sense in the context of, like, at the time there were other... Premier League squads that would have been better suited for a hold by especially Americans. I mean, no, I'm not sure Fulham was still in the league, but that definitely could have been a spot. I mean, there's a lot of mid-table teams that would have been serviceable, and Sunderland, that was like, as I say, if you've watched Sunderland Until I Die, that was kind of the start, or at least the middle of the calamitous fall for them now in League One. So I can get it. There's guys who have been good for years. Josie is still, unfortunately, really the number one striking option in the U.S. men's national team, unless, Josh Sargent, I'm hoping to see this year with Florian Kohfeldt said that he can't imagine starting lineup without him, which is huge praise for a 20-year-old. And then after that, I mean, it kind of falls off.
It does.
You have a ton of options. I'm still hopeful that Ayo Akinola makes his allegiance to the United States, because he would fit in perfectly for a high-pressing system that Berhalter wants. I mean, you still have guys. Aaron Johansson, fell completely off the radar, is actually making a good name of himself, I believe, in Sweden. You have Andrei Novakovic, who I've been saying for years, and he's still, I believe he's in his mid-20s now, but he could do it. Someone who kind of got off to a hot start, and I actually saw in person and is still doing pretty well in the second division in Germany, is Julian Green. So yeah, there's a lot of options, and when you get to a certain age, eventually it's not that you're not needed, it's okay, you've done great things for me, but I have this kid who is, 17 years your junior, and he can do the exact things for me for 90 minutes that you could probably do for maybe 30.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably a big reason why Ale Bedoya is not getting called up for the national team anymore, where, his legs are, it's debatable whether or not they're going. Maybe that's because he's never getting arrested and everything. But I saw some Union fans last night on Twitter were like, why not give Bedoya a chance with the national team with all the young players and everything? And so, no, that would be cool and everything, but I think the national team with Bedoya has sailed long ago and everything. But the last point I want to bring up so we talked about this last week, Ricky and I, how Pity Martinez has been sold by Atlanta. And now reports are coming out that La Liga club Sevilla are interested in signing Ezequiel Barco from Atlanta United for a fee from around 14 to 16 million. And Atlanta signed Barco for about 14.7 million. So this is this is starting to become a very intriguing job, in my opinion, the Atlanta job, because now if you sell Ezequiel, now you're going to have 2 DP spots open. Now you're going to have some money to play with and everything. It's like whoever gets the job is really going to be able to make this team their own, because when Frank de Boer got over and everything, it's like, nope, these are our 3 DPs, Joseph Martinez, Ezequiel Barco, and Pity Martinez, and we think they're going to be key pieces for us for years to come and everything. We saw that Pity Martinez did not fit in at all with Frank de Boer's system and everything, And now, well, Frank de Boer, we know, got fired after MLS's back tournament. We saw Pity Martinez, like I said, last week get sold. And now we're seeing reports of Ezequiel Barco rumored to be going to Sevilla and everything. Now, this would be a great move for Sevilla, in my opinion. This is a young player and everything who he's been a lot better than Pity Martinez for Atlanta, in my opinion. But, it's still, I don't think he has the hype around him that when it was announced that they signed him and everything. This is a guy who they thought was, I believe, is Argentinian, right? Or, yeah, I believe he's from Argentina. I'll look it up once you talk and everything. But, there's a guy they signed, I think, for around 17 or 18 years old and everything. There's a guy who, they're like, okay, well, maybe you can play really well for us and we'll sell you like Miguel Almiron and everything. But, now it's like, okay, well, let's just tear the whole thing down. We know the season doesn't matter for us in Atlanta. Justin Martinez, we all know, is not coming back this season and everything. I mean, it makes sense for Atlanta to really tear everything down, to do a well search, to get a new coach in here where they can get the DP signings that they want, because there's no denying that Arthur Blank has the money to spend and everything. And now you clear 2 DP spots. This is a very, very attractive team for a coach in Europe, maybe a coach in MLS. Who knows who's going to get this spot? But I think, a coach would favor Atlanta United over New York Red Bulls, in my opinion.
No, I absolutely agree. And honestly, I had to, start laughing because I knew this was coming up with the last piece of news. Listen, Pity Martinez obviously showed flashes of being a good player. I mean, there's a reason he was South American Player of the Year. He won Copa Libertadores with River Plate. There's no doubt that he was a good player. Now, why you brought him in right at the end of Tata Martino's reign, when it was made clear that he's not 100% sure he was coming back. It wasn't definite. He had said that he was going to honor his contract and then go from there. Obviously, we know he didn't stay. Pity Martinez would definitely have been good for a South American coach. You bring in Frank de Boer, who is the total opposite of everything that's, South American football stands for. He's very pragmatic, building from the back, whole possession football, not this high-flying, counter-pressing team. And I think Pity Martinez just never – it was like Frank de Boer's hiring. It was doomed from the start because there wasn't a lot of trust. And the fact that you can take a player that was bought for $14 million and I would say an average year and a half to maybe 2 years, then flip him for a profit of reportedly $4 million if the $18 million transfer fee for the Saudi club is true. Listen, Arthur Blank did great business. I mean, I'm sure that because really there hadn't been any substantiated reports of him leaving up till that morning. I mean, there was nothing. And there's usually chatter about a bunch of players. I heard nothing about Pity Martinez. I'm sure when Arthur Blank woke up that morning and looked at his emails or, however Carlos Bergenegger goes, club wants to buy Pity Martinez for $18 million. How fast can the money come? I mean, I'm sorry, but if you can turn a profit on a guy that's been average for you, there's absolutely no question. You do that in a heartbeat. And I can't say he's a flop because he did show flashes and he did win 2 trophies. So I can't say that he's a flop, but I can't say that he was a great success. Now, Ezequiel Barco, I feel like the jury's still out because he's kind of had a weird transition. I know there were rumors of him sleeping with a teammate's girlfriend. There was a lot of infighting. Again, he was a player that didn't have a ton of time. It came kind of towards the end of Tata's reign, so there was turnover. I think he would do well at Sevilla. I mean, they are the Europa League winners. They're a team that at least plays in Champions League every year, and then usually is either the second team in the group qualifying or then goes in third place and usually does a pretty good run at, in the Europa League. Now, is it a good move for him? I mean, I know they just signed Rakitic back, from Barcelona. I think for the team that they have, I think he definitely would fit in there. But it's also the question of who is Atlanta's next coach? Because if you're Arthur Blank, if you're Carlos Bocanegra, and you look at this and go, well, our first coach was, had a half-flying pressing style. Our second coach didn't work out well and had more of a pragmatic style. In my honest opinion, I think they're going back to South America. I think they're looking for that next coach that really that either has a good history or they can pull some promising players. However, I do think because Atlanta already is in rebuild mode. I mean, they're not hiding it. With these dealings, they're absolutely in rebuild mode, and they have a good young core. I honestly think they really should address the goalkeeping situation, because Guzan is not a bad goalie. He's always been a solid goalie. He had a long stay in the Premier League, obviously, but you can clearly see he's starting to have some big gaffes, some howlers, if you will. I think if you're the next coach, you definitely need to address certain key situations. But at the same time, I don't know if Atlanta is going to be splashing the cash that they did in previous years. I still think they're going to spend in the ballpark of $10 million. I think maybe to 15. I don't think they've spent more than that on a player. But it's clear to me that because, I mean, you're talking, their fourth year, and okay, they won MLS Cup their second year. They won US Open Cup last year. But it's clear that I don't think their style of spending is sustainable. Now, if you have money, you can splash it. But I will take a prime example is look at the LA Galaxy. They won the MLS Cup in 2014, and they've been splashing a ton of cash. They've had some great players since that point. But just because you can splash some cash doesn't mean you're always doing it in the right direction. And I know as Union fans say, we wish Jay Sherman would splash some cash. I would absolutely agree with that. But it's also about splashing the cash in the right positions. The Union have done a great job at getting certain, obviously defensive positions and attacking mids through the academy. But obviously striker is a key component. That's one that you can invest a ton of money in as a DP. There's a lot of guys around the league that are proving that that's how you splash the cash. I mean, Atlanta, Joseph was still a decent fee, and man, he has made everything of that and then some. So obviously that's a key component. But at the same time, I think Atlanta is, going to have to change the way they really spend it, because it's clear that, they turned a profit on Pity, but I'm sure the fans are going, that's nice that he turned a profit and all, but he didn't really help us. So as much as it's good splashing cash, you have to splash cash efficiently. And I think in a league where you're, single entity and the rules are made up and the points don't matter, and everyone has gam, silly money, whatever you want to call it, Garber bucks. It's all about spending it properly. And I think Atlanta is going to slowly realize that if they're going to spend it, they're going to have to spend it in a ways that, they can turn a profit, but they're also going to have to realize that it's about using it effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. But let's go ahead and move on to the New York Red Bulls versus Philadelphia Union. Like I said earlier in the episode, the Union, we all know, won that game 3-0. And look, I'm super excited that the Union absolutely destroyed New York Red Bulls. But like I said in the review episode, when the Union played Red Bulls at Subaru Park, and like I said in the last episode with Matt Tsai, and like you said earlier, Justin, this is the worst Red Bull team that I think any of us have ever seen. And I did think that this game was going to be a draw, But, I did also think that the Red Bull players were going to be fired up because the manager just got fired. But nope, they did not look like they were interested at playing at all. I mean, they just didn't show up. The Red Bulls had 7 shots that game, and none of them were on target. Royer had Ray Gaddis beat earlier in the game, and it should have had the game at 1-1, but he skies the ball. Now, granted, the ball was coming to him bouncing and everything, but should have done a lot better with that ball. Then you have Tom Barlow, who Matt and I were talking about a lot of last episode, where, he's getting a lot of chances. He's getting in the right position. He just, for whatever reason, can't find the back of the net. We saw it against the Union. He had a chance at the back post, kicks it wide. And this Red Bull team reminds me some of the earlier Union teams. And again, I'm super excited that the Union won this match because no matter how bad the opponent is, those are the games that you've got to win. But anyway, my thoughts on how the Union played. I thought, probably like most of you guys, the first 20 minutes were pretty sloppy by the Union and everything. It seems like they didn't want the ball. They turned it over too easily at times, I thought. They really couldn't get anything going in the final third at times, and I know you've been a big advocate of this on Twitter and everything, Justin. And I know Sergio created that chance for Casper, basically out of nothing, but, it was a sloppy chance that Sergio got that ball and everything, and it was terrible defending for the Red Bulls to let Sergio get that ball to Casper, and Casper honestly probably wasn't expecting Sergio to still have the ball and find some way to get Casper the ball, so he's just trying to blast this ball and everything, hope for the best and everything. But, credit for Sergio for creating that chance. The Red Bulls, I mean, like we saw when they played us at Subaru Park, they leave the flanks open all night, and this time, Mbaizo didn't really attack down the left side of the field quite often, which is fine and everything. We didn't need him to because that right side of the field in the first half was so open the whole time. We didn't see Ray Gaddis really pushing too much. We saw Ali Bedoya really going up and attacking and everything, and he was doing a great job. We saw him find that excellent ball to Brendan Aronson wide open, and Brendan scores a world-class goal, like I said, and everything. I know Casper was getting in those positions at night. Bringing in El Senior was excellent, playing him at the 10, Jim finally decides not to play him out wide and everything, puts him at the 10, and I know he was like, maybe Red Bulls weren't expecting this and everything, but I think when we brought El Senior in, he was able to hold up the ball. All the Union players were able to run off of him, and he was just able to, okay, well, you do all the heavy running and everything. I'll play you guys a nice, easy ball and everything, just like he did to Matt Real to get his goal. Anthony Fontana and Matt Real, they were both excellent when they came onto the field. They pressed really well to force Red Bull into making mistakes, and especially that big one that got Matt Real his first MLS goal. Just overall, 3 points, first win, like I said, since 2015 at Red Bull Arena, and the result puts the Union in second place in the East with 18 points, tied with Toronto. Justin, what are your thoughts? And a little bit later, we'll go over what we thought the Union could have done better, but let's hear your positivity right now.
Positivity. I definitely think that the first 20 minutes, they were a little sloppy. It was a little rough out of the gates, but you could definitely see that they were making careful approaches. That's why I think Mbaizo didn't necessarily go up the left flank as much because, against Columbus, he was dealing with Pedro Santos, and Lucas Del Rey. So, when you have guys like that, you get pinned back a little bit. But honestly, I think they realized that right flank was wide open. And on Aaronson's goal, Wooten, who I'm still a bit indifferent about. I think he showed flashes of the goal poacher they signed, but I think it's tough pairing him with Casper. He plays a beautiful ball out to Ali, who, my God, Jim, give him a rest. The man is absolutely gassed, and I was actually surprised that either Warren or Anthony Fontana didn't come on for him earlier. That was definitely a surprise, and I've been saying it for a while. There are certain positions Jim does really good at squad rotation, and then he'll run a guy like Ali into the ground, and if you're going to have Ali for a stretch run and potentially into the playoffs, you got to give the man his rest. But he plays a great ball to Brendan. And I'll say the one thing I've been saying with Brendan is sometimes he has a heavy touch, but the biggest detriment against him, and I think he's started to learn it, is the boy's got to shoot. The boy has to shoot. When you're around the 18, if there's not a pass, because as a 10, you're going to have more assists than goals. That's a guarantee. But you also have to be able to shoot it. And he took a great first touch. And then, oh boy, that shot was more beautiful than I think anything I've seen in recent history. With just, I mean, he didn't spank it. He got a great follow through, but it was curling away from Ryan Mira. Mira had no shot at that, and it hits inside the post. I mean, there is absolutely nothing Ryan Mira could do about that. And listen, it was a fantastic goal. Now the celebration was even better with the shush. I think that was fantastic, and I definitely used that for some conversations later. But it was perfect. And then, they kind of did, rough into the break. Obviously, like you said, Royer pulls a Wando and skies it from right around the 6. That ball's bouncing, but man, you got to get over that thing. All you have to do is redirect that, and that's a goal. Casper's goal, that was perfect team soccer if I've ever seen it. The precision passing. You have Ray on the wing. You had the Brendan and Elsinho work it. Then you give it to Ali. Ali feeds it through to Wooten, who smartly cuts it back. And Casper, I mean, I don't know what the defender was doing there, but Casper just has to poke it home. And that was a great team goal. And Matt's goal, I mean, I think, for whatever reason, Fontana is obviously been doing enough to get into the 18. I don't know what. I've heard some reports of some off the field stuff, potentially like a Derek Jones situation. But he's in the 18. He's getting time. Now, could he be doing more to get starts? Again, we're not the ones that practice. We're not seeing what's going on, so we don't know. But at the same time, it's clear that Fontana wants some minutes, and he's hungry. And he wants that. And, he plays a great ball initially to Real, and the ball gets cleared. And then for whatever reason, I believe it's Fernandez on Red Bull, tries to do a silly pass, and Fontana was right on it. He was right there. All it did was he got in the way, deflected it to Elsinho. Elsinho looks up. Real's calling for it. It was a beautiful ball in. And then I will say, for a left back, that was one hell of a strike. He honestly spanked that ball, and it hits inside the post. Again, nothing the goalie can do about that, because that was one of those shots. As a goalie, I said, any shot that hits inside the post, the way that curled, you have no shot. It sucks, but it was a hell of a goal. And honestly, it was a solid team performance. I think, Glesnes had some rough passes, but overall the defense looked solid. I hope for the New England game that Ali gets some rest, or Jamiro, because I mean, Jamiro didn't seem happy going off, but I think that was definitely for rest. He definitely didn't appear injured, and he was pissed. But you know what, guy's gonna have the rest eventually. And when you're playing a team who's playing as poorly as the Red Bulls, you have to beat them. You have to beat them soundly. Same thing with DC when you beat them 4-1. You should, the teams, you can obviously only play the teams that you're scheduled against. But the bad teams, the good teams, take care of them and take care of them efficiently. And so far, the Union are doing everything that a second place team in the league should.
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. Just one thing, Justin, I would critique you just like I critiqued everybody on Twitter for, is nobody is giving love to Olivier Mbaizo. This guy is a natural right-footed player playing as a left back. He did such a great job on the left. 7 out of 7 completed tackles, most on the team. 7 interceptions, most on the team. Completed 26 out of his 37 of his passes, had 64 touches. So 64 touches is so important, because it's not like, the Union aren't using him. No, they are getting him on the ball. They are trying to have him make things happen. But I think, out of all the stats and everything out of the completed tackles, the interceptions, he got dribbled by 0 times. And that is so crucial for a defender. Now, granted, like you said, the Red Bulls, they don't really have much in attack. We all know that. But still, this is a professional soccer team. Now, I know we can debate whether or not we think the Red Bulls are an actual professional team. But to not be dribbled by at all, that is so, so good. And he was so dominant on the left side of the field.
I absolutely agree. I'm not overlooking Olivier, but at the same time, the left side of the field in this game definitely it really wasn't used as much. He was going up the wing, but at a certain point, about 30 to 35 yards out, they weren't giving those through balls. Now on the right side was absolutely getting those balls through, and I wonder if it's because, one of the few bright spots of the Red Bulls is Kyle Duncan on the Red Bull right hand side, and I think he is quick, and he was covering a lot of mistakes that the Red Bulls made. So I wonder. I think Bizo, the good thing about him, and I think what he's reading, his defensive awareness has always been a bit of a question mark as to whether he can play it positionally well. And I think he made some smart reads. He didn't force himself up the wing. Obviously, he's playing out of position. He's supposed to be challenging for the right back spot. But look at Ray. The amount of times Ray has been played on both sides, and he's done well. I think the mark of a good wing back or a back in any league is someone who can be slotted on both sides. And someone who's a left back as a right-footed left back, he's obviously going to have to stop and make those crosses, because a left-footed cross on a right-footed player, it's not going to always look as pretty. But I'm interested to see, because he's getting a good run of form, how this works when Kai comes back, because he's obviously going to get minutes. And the question is then, okay, you now have 4 guys that can play those either side. Real's starting to show that he at least should be given a consideration. So is Bizo. But Kai, when healthy, no one's knocking him out of that spot. The guy is an absolutely effective total wingback. Gets up and back, plays well defensively, gets those crosses in. Ray, I love Ray, but I think you could always he's defensively, he's amazing. He's one of the best defensive right backs in the league. Getting up on the attack, he started to get better at that, and I think you've seen that. But then I wonder, is Olivier going to chap at some point, because they've been saying this for a few years? He's a young player. They signed him very young. Is he going to push Ray out? Now, Jim loves his veterans. He holds on to them a little too long. That seems to be a history in Philadelphia sports, with veterans being kept a little past where they should. Not saying Ray should be forced out at any point, but if Bizo is going to make that next push, he's going to have to do something to supplant Ray, at least as the almost everyday starting right back. So I'm not overlooking him. And I know I did see your tweets about the fact. I just think that in a game where a lot of the play was on the right-hand side, he wasn't quiet. I did see him going, making some plays up, but Kyle Duncan was definitely snuffing a lot of that out. So I think he kind of went under the radar, and honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because a guy that it's always, if someone stands out, it's either for having a great performance or having a very bad performance. And as I always say, not having your name mentioned is not always a bad thing, because it means you didn't screw anything up royally.
No, I agree with you spot on and everything. I just No, I know all these people that didn't talk about Mbaizo and everything. It's just fun, to bust people's balls sometimes and everything. So, just a couple other good points I want to bring up, and then I only have one bad thing I want to bring up. I don't know if you have any bad things you want to bring up, and then we'll go into Blunder of the week. But let me go through these last points really quick. You bring up a great point about Vutin and Casper. Not sure how these guys can play with each other. We know that Vutin is not fast at all and everything, but it was a great team building goal. I think he does make clever runs inside of the box. Like we saw, he made that run off of the defender, and Ali was able to slot the ball to him, and just, awareness of, okay, where's Casper going to run, and play that ball beautifully into Casper and everything. But we know, the Casper and Sergio Santos partnership is really good because, Sergio is going to make all these runs out into the channel while Casper will stay centrally and everything. Now you have Casper make those runs out to the channel, which we already know Casper is not the fastest striker and everything, where Andrew is going to stay more centrally. So, hopefully Sergio's not out for a while and everything, because if he is, now we really have no strikers. Now we're only going to have 3, and Galena, I guess, 4, De Vries, if you want to consider him a striker, and then you have Casper and Vutin for the only healthy strikers. And Ricky and I talked about Corey Burke last episode. We're not going to get into that. Point number 3. You brought up Brendan Aronson needs to shoot from distance and everything, and I've been saying this about the whole team. Like, you saw Columbus shooting from distance, testing Andre Blake. This is something the team needs to do more of. The goalkeeping in MLS isn't the best and everything, and so a lot of times goalkeepers spill the chances and everything. And when you have a guy like Sergio Santos, when he's running full speed at the goalie once he drops the ball and everything, that's going to cause chaos and everything. So I would love to see Brendan, Ali. I know we saw Martinez shoot from distance, just Miro, just any of the midfielders just shoot from distance and everything. Try your luck, see if the goalie is going to spill it. And then, just going back to when I was talking about Olivier Mbaizo's stats and everything, just as a whole, the Union were good at tackling, stealing the ball from Red Bulls. They completed 65% of the tackles. They were 26 out of 40, so they were timing their tackles a lot better, winning the ball back. They had 21 interceptions this game. Like I said, Mbaizo led the team with 7. McKenzie had 4. Glesnes and El Brujo had 3 apiece, and then everybody else, I think, had 1 apiece. Not everybody, the whole team, but a couple other players and everything. Whatever gets you guys at 21. I don't feel like doing the math here. And then the last thing I want to bring up is just another one of my keys for Union victory is they need to finish their chances. And look, they did such a good job this game. They had 9 shots. They didn't need to take a crazy amount of shots because none of those 5 shots were on target. And then you dive a little bit deeper. 3 out of the 5 shots that were on target were goals. So I would say the Union were really clinical in their goal scoring and everything. And hopefully that continues because, that's been the talk for a lot of the season. It's like the Union are creating chances. They're just not putting the ball in the back of the net. So the Union typically score more than 1 goal once they score the first goal and everything. I know that didn't happen against the Red Bulls at Subaru Park, but we know this team can create chances and everything. It's just, can they find the back of the net? And the only bad I'll bring up is, McKenzie, he had that pretty bad giveaway in the first half, but other than that, he played an outstanding game. And I know Jim came out and said Glesnes and McKenzie played the best game you can possibly play as a center back. But other than that, I think this was probably the best game we've seen the Union play all season.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree. And I think there were 3, not weaknesses, but things that could be improved upon. One, you made a good valid point. If Sergio's out, who's picking up the slack? I think if you bring stuff up, I think you need to do a formation change because right now you have Mbaizo. Mbaizo could play high up the field, so you could kind of do a 3-5-2 if you're really feeling But I think realistically, you're looking at another 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, depending on how you want to, divvy that up. Casper is going to be your top striker. He can be a hold-up guy. He can go out wide. Vutin's a goal poacher. He's not stretching the field by any means. Casper at least has some breakaway speed. It's enough to get you, like, if he has the run, he's not getting caught. Like if he makes that perfect back shoulder run, which he's been doing a pretty good job of, he's gone away. I think if you're gonna do formation change, if Sergio is out for the next game, I could definitely see a guy like De Vries, getting slotted as a winger, do Montero Ilsinho, or just do Ilsinho and Brendan Aronson on the wing. But then, it kind of question of, okay, then who's your bench options? If Corey Burke does indeed come back, he could stretch the field. His speed is definitely I haven't seen much of him in the Austrian league, but I think his speed definitely, he was able to stretch the field a lot when he was here with us the last time. But that's a big question of, okay, who are your bench attacking options? Who are your striker options? Like, you have forward, you have midfielders, but you don't really have that striker per se after Sergio. A second thing, yeah, everyone's got to shoot. I mean, shooting from distance is going to create a lot of issues. Ali had a nice, I believe it was Ali had a nice one that kind of knuckleballed, and Mira was able to get behind it. But it when you take those shots from 25 out, sometimes they dip. I've been in that position where you think you have the rate on the ball, and that ball swerves, and you're scrambling. As a goalie, that's never pleasant. So I definitely think they have to shoot. Brendan especially. The goal was definitely a great play, but they got to shoot. And when they shoot, they got to finish. That was the bad thing about Columbus was, I mean, you had at least 4 or 5 chances that should have been goals. You could have rolled over Columbus. Instead, they score on a fluky deflection. So I think that's definitely the issue on that. And the last thing that I wouldn't say is necessarily a weakness, but it's something I hope gets fixed, is this tendency from Jamiro to try to dribble through like 3 people in the middle of the field and play silly passes when it's clear it's not going to reach the player. El Brujo is someone that is not going to mess around. He is a destroyer like a Diego Chara, is going to break up the play and then give it to someone and then let them handle it. But if Jamiro is going to be that person that's going to handle it, he's got to do a better job, because there were times where, Brendan was out wide, making a run. Jamiro's trying to dribble through 3 people. If he had taken the time and played it out to either McKenzie or Glesnes, and then they, switched to Brendan, you're talking about you're building a rush. And I think Jamiro is trying to do too much, because Brendan is definitely the creative attacking player, while Jamiro is kind of your Swiss Army. Okay, you send him out and he's gonna nip at your ankles, and he's gonna try to, strip you of the ball. He's obviously not as physical as El Brujo, but he essentially is doing a similar job of it. But he's gotta cut out on these silly passes and these plays that, I mean, there were a few times where, he would take it and Red Bulls would strip him of it, and he'd go down, he'd look for a foul, no one's going to call it, and Red Bull would come out. Now, a good team would finish on some of those chances, but lucky for us, the Red Bulls are not a good team. But if you're going to be if in the next phase of the games, in phase 2, I'm sure they're probably going to only announce 6 games more, and then wait to phase 3 and announce the final 6 games. If you're going to be playing different teams, and I know there's some better teams if they're going to expand the quote unquote region bubbles, you can't be doing silly stuff like this. So those are really my only nitpick from was otherwise a pretty serviceable win.
Yeah, absolutely. Now here's a fun part, Justin. So like I kind of alluded to, the Blunder Week has something to do with Justin, because if you guys, like I said, aren't following Justin on Twitter, I mean, first off, you guys need to be, and again, I'll let you plug yourself at the end, Justin. But Justin, I believe this was after the game. I'm looking at the picture right now. And Justin comes up with the meme. I'm sure you guys all have seen this on social media of SpongeBob just turning left and right and everything, looking different directions. Justin's writing in capitals, lowercase, and everything, but he says, "But the Union aren't a rival to the Red Bulls." And so Justin does this and doesn't use a hashtag dupe, doesn't use the hashtag New York Red Bulls or anything. It gets liked by some Union fans, and somehow Red Bull fans find this. And what do they do? What is the first thing that the Red Bull fans do instead of talking about this game? they resort to name calling, making a meme comparing Justin to, I don't even know who it was and everything, but it's like, really, when you lose, you've got to resort to name calling. So my blunder of the week is going to any of the New York Red Bull fans that engaged with, I thought just a harmful meme from Justin, but apparently they took such offense to this that, let's go ahead and start calling people by name. So, I mean, it was just ridiculous and everything. It's like, why are you guys getting this upset? Like we said, they know it. We know it. This is a horrible Red Bull team. We don't have a problem busting your balls. We didn't have a problem with people busting our balls when we were a terrible team. I mean, look, we busted our own balls when we were a terrible team. But Justin comes out here with an innocent meme, isn't calling anybody out, and the first thing they do is, let's start calling you by name. Let's find clever ways to offend you and everything. It's like, come on, get a hold of yourself.
So that was definitely an interesting scenario. So let me give a bit of context and lay off. There's not a long timeline, but it's a timeline itself. So if anyone in Union Twitter is not aware, we have the Sons of Ben. We all have a Discord server. There's all a bunch of channels. We post stuff all the time. It's a fun way to chat with everyone during the day, and you break up the monotony of the day. And we one of the channels is the game day discussion. So when the Union are playing, we'll be talking back and forth about oh, I can't believe this play happened, or wow, great tackle, great this. So during the whole game, we like to poke fun. It's all in good. It's all good nature. We all kind of like to say, hey, it's we'll just talk it all out. So as the game is getting closer to ending, we're all talking about, okay, what are we going to tweet to get to kind of not poke fun, because we don't we're not poking fun at specific people. We're like, you know what, the Red Bulls suck this year. So how can we, get people mad? Well, the first thought was, the Red Bulls fans don't really consider us rivals. And not that we care, because honestly, I don't care. I don't care if anyone thinks we're not a rival. It really doesn't bother me. Now, you think New York teams should be rivals of Philly? Yes, that's, in every other sport, that's what it is. Do I care that the Red Bulls fans in New York City don't think we're rivals? No. Honestly, I could give less of a shit. But it is what it is. So my thought was, we were talking about, what are we all going to post? So the meme that came up was the SpongeBob meme. And the way that most people type it is you type every other letter is capitalized to kind of drive home the point. So out of the blue, I just said, but the Union aren't, the Union aren't a rival to the Red Bulls. Posted it. I was like, all right, guys, there were other games on. So I was like, okay, I was getting stuff ready. And I was grabbing a couple of drinks. I'm like, oh, let me go to the garage and grab some stuff. I'll come back. And I come back to my phone, and so a few of our fellow Sons of Ben members started liking the tweets. Maybe 15, 20 minutes later, all of a sudden, bam, I get quote tweeted. And this was the first of the quote tweets, but this one was the one that really stood out. So of course it was this guy comparing me to, and I have never seen the film, but I absolutely know of it. It's a quintessential bad 90s movie, Hackers. I was compared to the villain. Now, I really don't look like the guy, but so what the Red Bull fan did was he quoted my tweet, but then he snapshotted a picture of my profile pic, which is me. And if anyone who knows me knows, in quarantine, I've adapted the Tim Howard look. It's, I was losing my hair fast, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting rid of it. That's how it's going. So I've leaned into it, and I've maintained it pretty well, and I think it's a good look. My girlfriend seems to love it. People seem to, think it looks better. So, you know what? Whatever. So the guy compares me to, essentially, I would say, a Bond villain. Do I care if some Yahoo is making fun of me? No. Listen, you don't get it as far as I have, and being dealt certain cards without developing a thick skin and not caring what people think. And I stopped caring about people's thing a long time ago. So my thought was, So I started sharing it with some of our friends in the Discord server, and we like to poke fun at people. I'd say in good nature. It's ribbing. We all like to make jokes with each other. We don't make fun of each other. And so as soon as I shared this, oh boy, did the floodgates open. And this dude got dunked on so hard. So one of the people in the server who I'd say is a close friend is Mike Borton. And he is one of the kings at dunking on people and making them. He doesn't make fun of people. He just points out the hypocrisy and the irony in certain people's statements. So he does what the guy did to me. In reply, he puts the guy's picture and just says something silly like, kind of in the not similar nature of what the guy said about me, but just basically saying, who are you to be making any comments? And, the guy said, and I said to him, I said, oh, if only I had the comfort of 6 points in the 2 matchups of our teams to make me feel better. And he goes, oh, I'm so happy for you. And I go, yeah, I guess I am happy for me too. And so that was definitely the most interesting. There were a couple other interactions because it was going for like an hour after the game. I had so many people either retweeting or responding to my tweet. So I guess once one Red Bull fan gets into it, it's like piranhas. They swarm and they try to go for the kill. Did it all work? Hell no. It was funny because like I couldn't stop laughing at how many people kept responding. So I normally don't like to poke the bear and get people riled up, but I was like, you know what? These Red Bull fans are making it all too easy. So I'm like, you know what? Let me start playing some fun. So I had another person, retweet about, like a whole, like they didn't care about us. And they did a whole ranking of like 1 through 29 and the Union weren't on it. And I'm like, boy, for someone who doesn't care, you made a extensively long list of people or teams that are above us. And I go, and they were trying to tell me that, I'm either uninformed or, oh, blah, blah, blah. You're not, you don't know much or all the whole, I could go into all this stuff. So all I do is screenshot the table and go, I guess I tagged Mike and I go, I guess I don't know anything. But if I don't know anything, one thing I do know is my team's in second place, your team's in ninth. Last time I checked, second place is better than ninth place. And it was definitely a night of, I was having too much fun. And people were finding me back and forth. And we in our Discord server, which shouts to Devin from Sons of Ben the Pod, was the whole mind behind the Discord server. So if you're on Discord and you want to send that server, I would say go for it because it's a really fun time and we all have a blast. There were several people I was just sharing all the tweets that were coming through to me and people were responding so hard. And I had people even coming out of the woodwork who, I've never, not that I never interacted with, but I may not have. And they were talking on them so hard. And I will say also shouts to my friend Z, who she is a huge Sixers fan. She's part of the Mike Scott Hive. I've met her through Sixers Twitter. She's one of the nicest people you could ever talk to. She came in and went for this, swung for the fences and just knocked this dude out. And just, listen, I didn't care what he said, but as I tweeted, it does feel nice to know that people have your back. And I messaged it to several people. I said, hey, I didn't care what that guy said, but I do appreciate you guys messaging and, it's like, it feels nice to know that you have a quote unquote family that are going to back you up. And it was definitely the case for a lot of this, because I had people come out of the woodwork and random Red Bull fans. Like, when I thought the conversations were over, I'd have another person message me about, this and that. And, I had one guy, he started messaging me about how, well, you Red Bull, you Union fans, we're your rival, but you're not our rival. And I'm like, that's the joke. Like, that's what I'm saying. And no, you're really not our rival, but that's the joke, because you guys say that we're not your rival. Like, the whole concept of the joke kind of just went over his head. And then he proceeded to follow a bunch of us. And I didn't get any DMs, but Mike did. And it was a little strange. I mean, he essentially almost backtracked and kind of apologized. And then it wasn't anything mean-spirited, but then deleted all the tweets. Like, if you're going to press on someone, why then backtrack? Because it's clear you felt that way. But Blunder of the week absolutely to all these Red Bull fans who, for some reason, get mad if we don't think of us as their rival, but don't care, that we're not their rival. It makes no sense. But when your team sucks, you really have nothing better to do than to randomly poke fun at people and just come up with ridiculous excuses for why your team is bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys aren't following Justin yet and everything, I know you just got finished talking and everything. I'm going to let you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find your social media. So I'm pretty sure that post is all up and everything. So if you guys want to go see it for yourself, you guys can go ahead. But where can people follow you, Justin?
Yeah, so if you want to see the Twitter threads of a wonderful Sunday night, follow me at UnionNut26 on Twitter. I am also obviously on Facebook as Justin Friedburg, and I'm on Instagram at GoofyGoober26. I'm most active on Twitter, so if y'all want to give me a follow and hit me up, I have no problem interacting with people. Most of my posts are sports related, Union related, so your timeline's gonna be filled with a lot of soccer stuff. But no, if like I said, it's you'll see the fun that was that tweet. And if you're like I said, and I said this previously, if you're not doing anything, join the Sons of Ben Discord server. You'll absolutely won't regret it.
Absolutely. And if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, follow at Free Kick Pod. Check out the website, thefreekickpodcast.com, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick, Todd Lewis. And Justin, it's been way long overdue since I last had you on the podcast and everything. And I had a blast just reconnecting with you, talking finally, not about off-season news, but actually about a game and everything. And just thanks again so much, man, for coming on.
No problem. Yeah, I listen to the pod a lot on, I take my long 6 mile walks, a lot of Thursday in a week. And, it's been nice catching up. And yeah, it's been a while. I believe it was episode 3 back in December. It's been a long time. And actually at that point we were speculating on Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant's been official. But yeah, no, I'm always glad to be around. As I say, I am a free agent of, Union podcasts and social media. I seem to pop up a lot on Philly Sports Network live streams and posts. I float around from podcast to podcast. So anytime you want me back on, I'm always ready. Yeah,
well, you're definitely going to be coming for season 2 of the Union Trivia podcast that we did. The first season, you're definitely going to come in for the second one because I know you have a lot of knowledge, Justin. But anyway, with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.